All right, good evening, everybody, and welcome to episode number 54 of Freedom Matters Action Group. I'll be your host tonight, Krishna, and the theme of our episode tonight will be culture. And I do want to start with a quote from the late Andrew Breitbart when he said that politics is downstream from culture. And my goodness, how spot on he was to say that. And God rest his soul. I can't even put into words what he must be feeling, watching everything that's happening to our culture here in the United States up from heaven. Yes, the main manifestations that I'll go into as to how our culture is really in jeopardy and why we need to take action to restore and preserve it are through our schools and then through a lot of drag show events that have been going on, as well as really a lot of attacks on our children, our most vulnerable among our citizenry and among our humanity that have been allowed to pass that we must make sure to take action to reverse. So, yeah, starting with the schools. So, the Texas State Board of Education, they met this past Tuesday for, I think, really just a preliminary vote, but the final vote is going to happen tomorrow. So, all of you out there that can make it out to Austin tomorrow, please do go and voice your opinion, mainly to reject the working proposal. That's what we at Freedom Matters Action Group are advocating. And joining me now will be our very own Rebecca Clark to give us her expertise on that. Rebecca, good evening. How are you?
Hey, I'm good. How are you?
I'm great. Hey, and thanks for joining us. I know it's not easy, but I was just getting into the State Board of Education's final vote tomorrow, I believe,
Uh-huh.
on the Working F proposal. So,
Right.
yeah, number one, if you can, confirm that what I'm saying is correct, and you to add any other important details to that, please.
Yeah, just so this week they were meeting to go over various items that were up for vote, and one of the items was the revised TEKS.
Yeah,
Um
Texas essential knowledge and skills. Yeah,
right, for the social studies portion, and the revision that they had, the proposed, like you said, the working proposal F, that they had was just awful, to be honest with you.
yeah.
um
Like the specifics of what is really awful about that proposal, please.
well, they had taken a lot of the American, things that make America, and particularly Texas, great.
Right.
And the sense of pride in your state, in your country, no matter where you're from. When you come here, you came here because of what America affords, and it doesn't matter where you were born or anything. If you live here, we want our kids to be proud of where they live, and they can still retain the pride and the heritage that they came from. America is the e pluribus unum, out of many one, right? So a lot of the items were, in my opinion and many others' opinions, intended to kind of denigrate America. It kind of goes along with the agenda that we see. They want to make it a country that's you know systematically racist
Right. Mhm.
and oppressive, what
Right.
have you, when this country is certainly not that. Is it perfect? Absolutely not. And were mistakes made in
No,
our
no, God
past?
forbid. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, but I don't know of any other country in the world that has as many freedoms as we have, and has been
Right.
um philanthropic. I mean, not just for our country, but for everywhere. So that's why people want to come here. Anyway, so that was a lot of that was removed. I mean, "In God We Trust" was taken out.
Oh wow. Yeah.
Yeah, they took out the law. When they talked about the law of Moses and how kind of our court systems and our founding. I mean, the Ten Commandments are kind of a foundation to how the law was created here.
And Bill of Rights.
Um, yeah, and so and instead they would insert just socialist principles. And another thing that was, it kind of wasn't, you can't just point to one part of it. It was just pervasive throughout the whole framework. Was you can see everything shifting toward a global framework. Okay, so whereas the family is the core, right? The family, and out of the family, then the community and the society. If you have a healthy family system, right, then it
Right.
should go up. Well, they took out family basically and just replaced it with community. So the community is really not responsible for raising the children. It's the family that's responsible for raising the children.
Absolutely.
And yeah, so, but the whole globalist mentality of, we're all going to own the same things, or everything comes from one central place, the government, so that they can have everybody dependent upon the government. I mean, my personal opinion is that they want to make this next generation as dependent upon the government as they can, because then they have a lot of say and control.
They can control you. If you're made dependent on them, then they totally control you, and you're basically a slave, even though of course they don't warn you or tell you about it.
Right. You'll own nothing and be happy, right?
Yeah,
Trust
well,
us, we'll give you what you need, right?
right, and that's how we make you dependent, and how we make you enslaved.
Right.
Yeah, I'm glad you touched upon the attacks on like family values, because systematically,
Yep.
through my lifetime as a second generation, immigrant from India, like I've seen that be the case, and it's really very disgusting. Like through like our media, our TV shows, promoting things like single motherhood and kind of bashing like fathers, and basically saying that they're like useless and a bunch of bums and those sorts of things. I grew up like with shows like The Simpsons. Married with Children was a little bit before my time, but similar things like that, and how the court systems tend to be very rigged against the fathers and the
Yeah.
men.
Well, it kind of
Um,
started, I think, back. I mean, I think it was kind of with Archie Bunker and
okay,
that
is it-
whole. Well, I don't know for
yeah,
sure. I'm not saying, but yeah, the shows you mentioned for sure. But Archie Bunker, I think, was kind of when you started to see that, you know, almost feminizing of the father, kind of making him seem, like you say, like a like sitting on the couch doing nothing, and that kind of thing. um so yeah, I mean, it's a big problem, and I think it's, if they can tear apart the family, then, if you keep the family apart, and then that's why the whole, we look what they did with the whole welfare system. You
right,
can't get that if you have a two family. It has to be a single family. They want you dependent. You keep them single, and we'll give you the money. So you don't need a man. Just have, we'll give you the money you need. And so, I mean, it was just sad to see, and they also really kind of watered down just anything that was
for
American.
sure. And I'm gonna
They,
add Cindy here. She generously also agreed with
hey,
mine.
Cindy.
Hey Cindy,
Hey,
good evening.
Rebecca.
Thanks for
Hey,
joining us.
Yeah.
Krista. How are you?
Yeah, good,
Good.
good. You're just in time. Like
Good.
Rebecca was just going through, her perspective on the SBOE meeting, that the preliminary meeting that happened this Tuesday, and the final thing that's going to happen tomorrow. So yeah, you're just in
Yes.
time, and I'm glad you're also here to add your expertise, which I would say is better
Oh,
than mine.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's not a fraction of Rebecca. So
Oh,
I keep asking
I
Rebecca, what's going on? And that's why I was late, because I had someone else calling me going, what's happening? And I'm like,
yeah.
okay, let me try to explain it quickly, but I don't know. I mean, it's confusing. It is. And I told
So,
that to my district member when we were
so,
there yesterday. I said, we're all confused.
well,
Yeah.
I can tell you what's going on now. So this
Okay, good.
week, back to what we were saying, Krishna, is, and you chime in wherever, Cindy, but what it was on Tuesday, it was a committee vote
Yes.
on the social studies TEKS. And I'll just tell you what I witnessed there. I mean, major politicking going on,
Oh,
obviously.
yeah. Oh, yeah.
You could just see it happening. It's playing out before you. The Democrats on that board run circles around the Republicans. They are manipulative, and
Yes.
they are skilled at it.
Yes.
So,
Very.
and so they were doing their thing, and they just talk and talk and talk and continue to talk, and everything they say, they're like, well, help me understand this, and they really don't understand a lot, because almost everything they started out was I don't really understand, help me understand.
Right.
But it's just a
Right.
manipulation technique, right, Cindy?
Right. Yes.
And
Yes.
so it seemed like it was trending toward where they were going to go ahead and go for this revised TEKS, but
Yes.
the tide shifted a bit. I'm sure some behind the scenes things were going on, deals being made. I mean, you can visualize it.
I
We don't know,
know.
but,
Yeah. No, I know.
and then they called the vote. Okay, well, Pam Little, the representative from
Yeah.
up north, she went ahead and put forth a resolution. A motion to delay the approval of the TEKS and to take more time to look over it. And she gave a date of 2025, which basically what that is just puts it into the next board's hands, because what they're doing is trying to ram this through before the new board
Yeah.
comes in, because they know it's going to
Right.
be likely, if it goes the way it's supposed to go, it's going to be more conservative, right?
Right. Yeah.
Right.
So they don't want them, because they know this current proposal F is not going to fly under a new board if that's the way it goes. So they want to ram it through. And of course, you know, we got to hear the Democrats talk about, oh, well, we've spent all this time and money, and the committees that worked on this and put all this time and effort. We can't just scrap it. It's like giving up. Well, that's not what we were saying. We're saying this doesn't work. Go back to the drawing board. The current TEKS that was created in 2009, I think implemented in 10, is great. And it's all it needs is some enhancements to include the newer statutes and stuff like that, like SB3 and kind of like that.
And to be clear, SB3, that's the provision that bans the teaching of critical race theory, correct?
Right.
Right.
That definitely needs to be part of it.
Right. And it also requires that civics be taught in high school also.
Yeah, amen. Yeah.
So
yeah, that's good.
Quite clearly we need that.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. So,
yeah.
I'm thinking it might have been lacking when I was in school too, because I'm learning how much I don't know about.
Well,
our local
it's been a while
state
for us, Cindy. So maybe
Sure, yeah. I mean, and it's been a little bit less of a while for me, but you know, I'm a second generation, American. My parents, immigrated from India, and I recall like growing up and learning, America's unique culture of the conditions of law and liberty, the Magna Carta, and then how that was inspired to bring about the Declaration of Independence and create the Constitution, which was the first of its kind and really unique ever, especially the Second Amendment. I mean, really no other country has like a written Second Amendment. And really the only other country I can think of that's got any appreciable gun rights is Brazil, but that's only by a declaration by President Bolsonaro. But, that, and then just, liberty and the protection of rights at all costs, really was what I was taught made America uniquely great. And was the root cause of all the economic opportunities that it created.
Free market.
That made, and encouraged millions of immigrants from all around the world to come here, which, is not the case really in any other country. I mean, sure, like millions go to Canada and the United Kingdom and that sort of thing, but not to the degree that they came to the United States. And it's really, a shame for me to witness and see that that's not being taught to kids in this generation. And I really feel that's like the real privilege, I would say, that I felt that I think needs to continue for posterity and the continuation of American culture and really American civilization.
Right. And to your point, Christian, you just described the American exceptionalism. It's not that we're perfect. It's not that we've done everything right along. It's just that we are the first. We're like an experiment. We are the first of our kind, and we do aim for liberty and all of that. That's what we heard. And Rebecca, I know you heard it too, where they were twisting again, like they do. They twist the words and they talk about America has not always been exceptional. And we're like, that's not what that is. Just like church and state, separation of church and state. It's not what you're saying it is. It's the opposite. And so to say
they definitely, those people were talking needed civic lessons, even the people on the board, because, they go on and on about slavery and what we did to the Native Americans. And it's like, I mean, have they not looked at any other country in the planet? Because every other country has a history of even greater atrocities. But what we did was, as a country, we said, this isn't right. And we went to war over slavery.
Exactly.
And millions of white and immigrant people fought and lost their lives.
Died. That's right.
Just because they believed it was wrong and they felt that strongly. And instead of focusing on that and teaching the kids, hey, just because something starts out wrong doesn't mean you can't stand up and correct it. I mean, Martin Luther King Jr. would be rolling over in his grave. I mean, everything he did, in my opinion, it was an affront to everything he stood for and did. And they try to twist it. So, and the other thing I noticed was definitely the one-sided, even though the board is majority of Republicans, Republicans.
Yeah.
Right,
Um,
definitely Ryan was making
F and R. Yeah.
like I said, the Democrats run that thing, and so when they would have people come up, so when you get called, give comment, they call you up in groups of 4, and so after each of the 4 people give their testimony, then they call you back up, and if anybody wants to ask you a question, you go back to the dais and answer a question. Well, when they asked questions of the conservatives or people who are speaking out against the TEKS, it was like almost like the goal of the Democrats that were asking questions was not to seek to understand. It was to seek to belittle and patronize and hopefully go, aha, see, you don't know what I'm talking about. And they didn't give much of a chance for, they would cut you off when you start to, kind of get on a thing that makes sense and was kind of refuting what they say. But then when they would ask their people that were for this TEKS, I mean, it was like one lady was defending a thesis up there. I couldn't believe how long she was up there talking, and they were just leading the witness, and you would see them.
Yeah.
They're all on their phones, all of them during, which I think is ridiculous because comments and stuff and help. And then some of them would get up and walk out while discussion was going on. And I could see them talking in the hall with constituents, probably people who were testifying to find out what questions they were going to get. It was just, I just wanted to go home and take a bath, but
I know. It was pretty.
No, it sounded right. I mean, it sounded like it was very exhausting to go there, and God bless you both for doing it. I feel ashamed that I, couldn't be there in person.
No, you can't. Everybody can't be there. We recognize that. Yeah, and they know that, and that's why they do these things the way they do them. And they know they have the left. Many people that live in the Austin area are left leaning, and so they can easily get there. They can come and go, and I do want to say though, I appreciated Representative Rick Green taking up for us when he spoke, and he let him know, look, when I was in House of Representatives over here, we had many all night, long hearings, and we never treated people the way you're treating people. And so that was good that he, of course they didn't call him back up and they cut him off.
He was the one that authored that week of freedom, I think, the Freedom Week bill. So that was kind of his. They didn't want to talk to him about it because he knew because they were talking about how do you define American exceptionalism, and one of the ladies on there, said that we stole land from the indigenous people. It was just like, I mean,
we're on stolen land. Yeah, we're on stolen land.
Well, that one gentleman from, I cannot remember what group he was, but he was very well spoken and very prepared. And he said, well, actually, he said, we don't like to use the term indigenous because it portrays a sense of superiority. And she was like, well, how's that? He said, well, because it's saying that they're entitled to or have a right to something over somebody else. And,
I recall that. Yeah, I forget the name of the gentleman, but I recall that.
Michael, he's with Texas Public Policy.
Oh, Michael Leland. Yeah, okay, that's right. Yeah.
He did a great job. And so did the Texas Values, Catherine Castle. I think it's Mary Castle.
Yeah, she did.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
They did. They were very prepared. They did good.
But Friday, so what they did was they voted. They went ahead and voted on Pam's motion, and they so it was 7-2. Will Hickman voted with the Democrats. He wanted to pass it. And then Matt Robinson, Republican, got up and walked out. So he knows.
Right.
And then as soon as Chairman Ellis said, okay, we have a quorum. And as soon as he said that, I thought they're going to get up and leave. And sure enough, the Democrats got up and took off, trying to, run out so that there wouldn't be a quorum. But the guy on the phone, I think it's Garza, I can't remember his name, Cortez. He was on the phone calling in, and so he was on. So there was enough for the quorum. So it was 7-2, and it passed. And then Will Hickman wanted to do another motion to where they would adopt his or use his framework from which to go forward. So that's why he's explaining that he's going to vote. He's saying he's going to vote along with Pam's motion on Friday. And I think Pam said that he would go along with what he said, so long as if they didn't like the framework and it didn't work, that they would, that they would be able to not use it.
Good.
Right. They would delay it till 25, right?
Right. Well, I
Yeah.
don't think that the intention is to finish it this year. They're just saying they're going to start with his. Is that right, Cindy? I mean, I don't think that that's the confusing part. If they
That's
adopt
the
his
confusing part.
framework,
Yeah.
yeah.
Because
If
there's
they
something
adopt,
else that they're going to do in like November, right?
well,
There's something
really,
else.
what I think is
Mhm.
that even if they say they're going to, even if they go along with Hickman's motion,
Right.
the intent is just that instead of he wants to do chronological, or instead of having Texas as a
Yes.
standalone and U.S. history as a standalone, which is it should
Right.
be like that.
It should
He's got
be. It should be.
order, which is
I'd say so. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
kids they don't get that. So even
Right.
if that I can't see them using it, but I still think the plan is for 2025. The things that they're going to do prior to December, because they have to, is to do what we wanted, take the current TEKS and do the enhancements where they have to meet the qualifications as per SB3. So that's what they're going to
Right.
do by, if I understand correctly. And if I'm wrong on this,
Yeah.
then please somebody tell me. But so
It's
that
it, that I. Yeah. Yeah. We told Will this is so confusing. It's just it's not clear to at all.
Right. And it really needs to be. Yeah.
It does. It should be. We should know what's going on. Yeah.
yeah, well, I don't
It's
think they want us to. So
no.
Right. It's
No.
hard
Just like
to
everything
dismiss
else.
that the obfuscation is purposeful. So they leave
Right.
us kind of going in circles and scratching our heads and hoping that
Exactly.
will catch us off guard for them to insert
Yeah.
something insidious.
right, yep.
That
So
is true.
it was an experience, and I am exhausted,
Yeah.
caught up on my sleep.
I know. I know. I'm thinking one more day. One more day. I've got one more
Right, right, which is tomorrow, which is a reminder, like
tomorrow.
that will be the like final vote for
Yeah.
whether working out proposal does get incorporated into the TEKS.
Right? Are you
Yeah.
still?
What's that?
Are you still in Austin?
Oh, we've been driving back and forth. We drove back and forth
I
Tuesday because we had stuff we had to do in the evening, and
yeah.
then went yesterday. Did not go today, but we're leaving at 5 o'clock tomorrow morning
Oh my
to
Okay,
goodness.
head back
so
down.
yeah,
So
we'll all be praying for you, Cindy,
Yeah.
and all
thank
the
you, and there's
righteous
there are
conservatives and
others.
liberty loving folks, and folks that love
Yeah.
American culture and Texas culture to really
Yes,
ensure that working out
absolutely. Yeah,
proposal
we
does
need
not
it.
get through, and SB3 does.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
I
we
really
need it.
like it when people who are immigrants come and speak up,
Yes.
and or teachers, which is hard because they're teaching,
Right.
but
Yeah.
just emailing stuff, and giving that perspective. Although, I'll be honest, I definitely don't think the Democrats really care about the perspective. They just want what they want. And
Right,
maybe
that's
Right.
it.
I'm
Yeah,
not nationally Democrats, because I know that I'm not all Democrats are that way. And I know,
right.
Right.
not all Republicans want the right thing, but I
Right.
just wish they think about the children and not about their agendas
Ex-
on either side.
exactly.
Really
Right.
about what's appropriate for kids, what's best for
Yeah.
for them to understand and comprehend, and
Yes.
instill a sense of, like I said, pride, camaraderie. I mean,
Yes.
whether you're from India, or my dad's English, and he
Right.
had a green card until not too long ago when he finally became a citizen. But it doesn't
Wow.
matter where you're from. You're
Right.
Once you're here and you become an American, we're all united under that umbrella. So
Yeah.
I just,
I think we need to start losing the adjectives.
yeah,
Yeah, amen. Yeah, I mean,
We're
this is really
Americans.
about, yeah, I mean, this is really about children and posterity. And I know, like, for a lot of folks, like, it's not so much about today, here and now. So, yeah, why should I care? And that's a reasonable question, but, it's the righteous thing to care about the future and posterity. And that's a big
Yeah.
part of our culture and what the founding fathers did with
Right.
creating the Constitution and the Bill of Rights and putting it in writing, not just in
Absolutely.
speech, so that posterity, like future generations, could enjoy
Right.
and benefit from those
right,
liberties and opportunities that come through it. Of course, on the condition, as Benjamin Franklin said, that we maintain the virtues and the commitment to that and don't waver in the principles and values that they fought so hard, literally, to make sure that we can enjoy.
Absolutely. That's right. That's
you
And I
know,
right.
think Thomas
Yeah.
Jefferson really hit it on the head when he said that every generation is going to have to fight to preserve
yeah.
its liberty and culture.
Well, we're seeing that play out right now. And one more thing I wanted to add is, another thing they were putting in there was, like you said, the critical race theory, but also the LGBTQ stuff, which
Yes.
Right.
just by sheer virtue of the fact that it introduces sex, okay, that's what it's
Right.
about
Right.
who you have
Right.
sex with. It's
Right.
inappropriate for minors, and you
It
know,
is.
it's beyond my comprehension how they want to rationalize that, because some of them were saying, well, they need to know how to navigate, or they need to. I'm like, dude, we didn't talk about how to have sex as a
No,
head.
no, we
That's not
didn't.
the role of
No,
schools.
we didn't.
That's the role
Yes,
of
no,
the family, the parents.
yeah.
You know,
But
and so
stick with biology. We stick with biology. You
yeah,
know, that's it. Just talk about biology, and
was it?
that's it.
And they kept
Yeah,
saying stuff like, leaving people out and not including people. I'm like, that's
right,
you're the ones that do that.
right.
Nobody's
Yeah, yeah,
they
yeah.
can't learn at school. Nobody's saying that, you treat others the way you want to be treated, no matter what your
Right,
baseline is. But that doesn't
right.
mean that you have to talk to children about things that they're not ready, either not ready to
No,
comprehend, or it's not appropriate. That's for the family to handle. And if the family
that's
doesn't,
right.
then that's just the family's problem. It's not the school's problem. The school is not
That's
there
right.
to train your child in that area, and they need to leave
No,
it. They want to shove it
Right.
down. They're easily manipulated, and
yes,
children respond to the power of persuasion and illusory truth very easily. So
yes.
why they
Not to
want
mention they're not, their brains aren't developed enough to handle that kind of
That's right. Yeah.
mature. Uh, it robs them. It steals their childhood. It robs them of their childhood.
I mean, there's a reason we don't. Yeah.
to.
Yes, yes.
There's a reason we
There you
don't allow
go.
children to
Grooming.
watch
That's
R-rated
right.
movies, especially
Yeah,
like unsupervised.
Yes, that's right.
And it's for that purpose. And when the schools get involved in areas where they shouldn't, like teaching kids about sex, especially in the inappropriate
Right.
ways that they do, then that
Exactly.
creates the cultural decay. And as Andrew Breitbart said,
Exactly.
like our politics is downstream from culture, so when our culture
Yeah,
decays, so does our politics. And I
that's
mean, for
right.
people that have eyes to see, then that's exactly what we've been witnessing and what we at
It's
FMAG
true.
are trying to
Yeah.
reverse.
right.
You bring up a good point, Krishna. That's that you I can't, my 10-year-old, if I had a 10-year-old, my 10-year-old wouldn't be able to walk into an R-rated movie.
Right, at
You
least not on
know,
his own.
not
Yeah.
supposed to. They're not supposed to. I think they
They
can get in
can't,
trouble if they allow them.
they can't go buy a Playboy from the gas station either.
Not supposed to.
Yeah, right.
Exactly. Exactly. So
But hey,
why
go to
would
the
we
library,
then?
pick up a graphic novel, and we might
Right.
as well just put some lines of Coke and a beer of
I.
a beer,
That's it.
give them some porn, and say, hey, you're going to see it out in the world anyway. I mean, you might as well
Yeah.
come
Yeah.
on.
Who cares if you're only 9 years old or 10 years
Yeah.
old? That's just not. Yeah. That's not right. Yeah.
But
I mean that's.
I think it's
Yeah.
so nefarious that it is. If they can get their minds, because there's so many studies, white papers, it is a proven fact that
Right.
pornography is as an addiction, and it
Yes.
is destructive to lives and
Yes.
relationships and all
Yeah,
kinds.
absolutely.
And if
Yes.
they can get them when they're young and screw them up
Yeah.
when they're young, then they're ineffective. They can't
The
back.
damage is almost irreversible, yeah, especially when
It
they
is. Yeah.
try to groom
Yeah.
these boys and girls to like think that they can
Yeah.
be a different gender, especially at like a
Exactly.
young age. That damage is like
Exactly.
almost irreversible
It is.
once you get to adulthood. I was reading a story on the Epoch Times. I think the girl's name was like I think Chloe Cole that went through a gender
Yeah,
surgery, and the story was about how
Yes.
she's like regretting it
Yeah.
because she just can't reverse that damage.
No.
yeah,
And that's what they said. There's thousands of them now. They have they keep getting censored on Facebook. They have a Facebook page even for
Oh, yeah.
detransing, and they get censored and pulled down because they
yeah, but
don't want.
no truth.
Yeah,
Right,
they
and
don't
that's
want
just
to. They don't want.
another
Yeah.
critical aspect on the major like cultural decay we're experiencing in this country.
Right. Right. It's true. It's
We
true.
all
Yeah,
But
did in our lifetime. I didn't, but here we are.
I know. I know. It really
I
is
know. I mean,
child abuse. What
We're
it
in an
yeah,
is.
exciting time because, I mean, I know it's not good, but at the same time, it's an opportunity for us who have our convictions, and
Yes.
we get to participate in history. I mean, this is like
Yes,
we're
we do.
right,
Yep, that's right.
like
It's kind of like, yeah, like think about the suffragettes, right?
yeah,
Votes for women. Yeah,
yeah.
I know
Right,
that's a bad
yeah,
comparison, but you know what I'm saying? It's like it's that kind of, but even more so, it's like we're changing. You know, we have the chance to really make a difference in where the culture is going, and it's not going in a good place.
right.
So yeah, you're right. You're right. It is. It's we have to think of it that way. It's an exciting time to be,
Mm-hmm.
because we have that opportunity to do the right thing, but we
Right.
can't sit by and ignore it. We have to get engaged.
And one thing I tell people,
absolutely, yeah.
for me to encourage other people, but sometimes myself, I'm like,
Yes.
but I every time I start to feel discouraged, I'm like, you know what? I mean, we overturned Roe versus Wade. That was
Right.
No,
Yeah.
it's true.
Praise the
That was
Lord. Yeah.
huge.
Yeah.
That was huge.
prayer and hard work, and it
Yeah.
paid off. And I always try
Yes.
for that,
Yes.
our
That's right.
and the enemy wants
Yes.
can't get us to quit. If our faith is strong, they can't
That's right.
faith, they'll make us feel frustrated or weary or discouraged. And so
That's right.
we recognize that and say, no, I reject that. And I look at how long it took, the Roe versus Wade, just for example.
Yeah.
And
50
I'm
years.
Years, right? A whole lifetime. Yeah.
yeah.
Yes. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So
No, you're right. And we have to keep, and I think that's why I love all of the people like you guys that we get to
And
meet
then back
with,
at you,
because
Cindy. Yeah, indeed.
we encourage each other and keep
yeah,
each other lifted up. And I always tell people, and we have fun. I
we
don't know
do.
the other side has fun. We have fun.
I mean,
you know?
and you have
Yeah,
to laugh at it in a way, like when we
that's it. You
were,
do. You do. And just to have the joy of the Lord,
yeah,
and let that be the light that shines in the
well,
darkness.
strength,
Yeah.
right? The joy of the Lord is your strength, is our
That's
strength.
it.
So,
Yeah, it absolutely is. Absolutely
and
is. That's right.
is, I think as people's eyes are open more and more, the enemy of my enemy becomes my friend. It's just because
Yes.
people are like, look, that is too far. I can't look what
Right.
you're doing to the kids and what you're doing to our
Yeah.
economy. I think people are starting,
Right.
okie dokie, like I don't have to have voted,
Yes.
but I'm not stupid. I'm done with this. So
Exactly.
I'm
Exactly.
that we can all unite under the idea that what is being done in our country is wrong and it has to be stopped. So
Amen.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That is true. That is true. Well, on that note, I'm going to have to scoot because we've got,
Oh,
I
yeah,
see your
absolutely.
hands.
Thanks, Cindy.
So we have a
Well,
square
thanks,
hands
Cindy.
going
I
on
know
the
it
news.
wasn't easy to be honest, but yeah, it was definitely a big value add for you, to be honest. I really appreciate it.
Well,
Thank you.
drive
thank
safe.
you. Thank you. I appreciate it. And y'all take care. It was good seeing y'all.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Amen. All right. Take
Bye.
care. Bye, Cindy.
Mhm. I think we've pretty much covered it, but if there's any questions you have or anything else that I didn't cover, I don't know.
No, I mean, well, yeah, I think that was pretty comprehensive, and thank you for that. I mean, yeah,
Okay.
my next like section that I was going to cover was the drag queen show that happened in Roanoke, Texas. Steven Crowder did a great video where like he went undercover, sort of like taking a playbook of Project Veritas, and he was able to see both the inside as well as like the outside of it, where of course you had the Antifa folks defending the drag queen show with assault rifles, of all things. So I mean, yeah, it's like especially when they're like trying to push gun control, and this is happening. It shows how militant this quote unquote anti-fascist group is. And then the other side, protesting it. I mean, they were also like fairly robust, I would say. I mean, they weren't like aggressive or belligerent, but I mean, they, were also vocal, and rightfully so. I mean, this is part of American culture, is our First Amendment and the ability to voice our opinions, as long as it doesn't, incite violence or violate people's rights. But on the inside, like, there was one woman there who was caught on camera saying that she was a middle school teacher, and these are like kind of the things that I need to teach. Right. And like, and some of the people like they're promoting were saying, oh, there aren't that many children there, or like there aren't any children there. But, Crowder counted like, 8 of them, and they were, being, being like approached and shown like these drag queens, like,
Yeah.
twerking in front of children. And even like some of the fathers and mothers were like paying these drag queens as if they were like strippers. And I mean, it's like, I'm surprised I didn't vomit like just watching this
Well,
thing.
ask any drag. That's what a drag show is. Sexual. It's a provocative sexual performance, and I mean, I don't understand how this is not illegal, and because I
Right.
years ago, maybe even 10 years ago, people will be arrested for doing that. You can't take a kid to a strip club. I mean, what's the difference?
Yeah. Right.
These people are half naked, writhing around and then taking money in their undergarments. And I just see these children in those videos, and it hurts me so bad because that their parents or whoever their guardians are. I mean, that's exposing them to things that, okay, we're sexual beings. We're created.
Right. I mean, that's how we like reproduce and grow our
Yeah.
population. Absolutely. Yeah. We're programmed for that, but in the right and specific way.
Well, and you're evoking that sexual, it's before the time of being ready. It's it's awakening that sexuality at a time when they're too young. One, really physically, and two, mentally for sure, and emotionally. It's
Right.
just, and then like you say, it's like
Yeah.
that back in the bottle. It's just, you know, and
Yeah, and you know, on the point of the parents that you brought up, like that was actually a big aspect of it. A lot of the parents that would bring their kids there, they were like happy about it, and they were thinking this is great, and they were even like photos of like the fathers of all people, you know, taking pictures with these drag kings with their children, as if, oh yeah, this is great, we're just going to Disneyland. And I mean, this is like another like aspect of our cultural decay is that you know the fathers themselves in a lot of these families I really fear are weak, and they're very ethically like bankrupt, and for them to like bring their kids to this and like you know be proud of it and think that this is a good thing is just, I mean, it's just beyond words how like disgusting and ridiculous it is. And really I gotta say, like on the cultural aspect, Rebecca, I think very uniquely Western culture is really the only culture that's like allowing this sort of
oh
decay and this sort of disgusting stuff. Like, you know, in Russia or China, they don't allow us. Of course, those aren't really free countries at all. But you know,
well,
I remember like in 2018, when this whole like your drag queen stuff and this LGBTQ thing was just like kind of getting started.
yeah,
I had a roommate who was from the Czech Republic, and I was talking to him about this stuff. Is like, you know, do they do this kind of stuff in the Czech Republic? And he said, no. I mean, if a man like goes out and like dresses up a drag queen, he'll get punched in the face and beat up. And I mean, I wouldn't go for that far and advocate that, but you know, I can't really blame like the sentiment for that. And it's just very bizarre that like all our culture, which is supposed to be, as we were saying, exceptional and like you know producing the best opportunities and the best life for families,
yeah,
is now actually falling behind even you know cultures in Eastern Europe of all cultures, really.
right, yeah.
And of history of communism.
Where they're like China laughing, you know, they're looking at our, because this is the decay of society over here. The fabric is, you know, and that's what, like they said, without firing a shot. Well, they're like perfect. I mean, they don't have to do anything. They're just watching us, you know, do it ourselves. And it's like you said, if you try to pull that stuff in China, you'd probably end up with in a gulag or something. You know, I mean, they,
Or a firing squad. Yeah, right.
yeah. So, you know,
And
it's
I mean, you know, that's, and I'm certainly not advocating. Those are certainly horrific things. And, you know, our culture is one of like free expression and of liberty.
right,
But I mean, at the same time, if we give into like a very disgusting, you know, cultural beliefs like this drag queen stuff and, you know, pedophilia, then I mean, then that's eventually going to lead to the loss of our liberty and our rights and our civilization. And it's really upon us, we the people, to speak up about it like we're doing here, like on this live stream,
yeah,
taking action to, you know, expose this as wrong and to and to teach our own kids that this is wrong and to teach them what the right values are.
right. I mean, and it is certainly, what was I going to say, having to do with the decay of the fabric. Um, it's lawlessness, honestly. And I think that this administration has fostered such a sense of lawlessness that people know they can get away. And I honestly think this is just a very small percent of the population, but because it's in our face all the time and the media shows it, and we're just so astounded by the depravity, it almost feels like it's everywhere, you know, and
Yeah, and it's happening here
emboldens more
in
of it.
Texas, which is a hardcore red conservative state. You know, and I've come from like blue, like liberal states like California, and growing up in New Jersey.
Yeah,
So I mean, I don't definitely don't approve or condone of it happening there. But there, it's like, okay, yeah, I mean, I'm not surprised by it. But the fact that it's happening here, you know,
yeah,
should be putting us all on red alert. That just because right now, as Texas, we're red and very conservative. I mean, it's not going to stay that way if we ignore, you know, the attacks on our conservative culture like this drag queen garbage and do nothing about it if we just stand by.
well, it's 50 shades of gray, the whole 50 shades of gray. You start graying everything, and then the lines get blurred, and the boundaries are, where are the boundaries, you know? So when, you know, you have boundaries set, and when you start to move those and you're like, okay, well, you know, all the different shades of gray, then it's like, well, Okay, then before you know it, anything goes. Anything goes. I mean, like you say, who in their right mind would say a minor attracted person is okay? I mean, California just passed that law where you can have an adult can have sex with an 11-year-old. I mean, are you kidding me?
Right, and a judge is allowed to rule that that's okay, or like that the well, I would call him the rapist of that minor.
Yeah.
It would not be required to be put on a sex offender list. The judge can rule.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. It's just, we're just
And
going to have to
especially
keep
this attack
pushing.
on our children, like, especially sexual attacks on our children. I mean, I really think that's like the most horrific thing that
It is.
any human being can do to another. And I mean, this is also like, in connection with another like story I wanted to talk about, where Savannah Hernandez, who's a very great reporter, had interviewed a whistleblower from the Department of Homeland Security. This whistleblower, like, did not want his voice or his like name on camera, but he confirmed that the Biden administration is like purposefully smuggling children from across the Mexican border for nefarious purposes, like all these like drag queen grooming. And I'm going to try to like post a link in the comments, but I mean, this is how like our culture is getting attacked from like all sides, and the degree to it, and all the more reason why it's imperative that we need to reverse it. And it's only we, the people, that are going to do it. Our elected officials have proven that they either will not or cannot do it.
Right. And I'll bring up CCDF right now, because that's part of the thing is, when the election was stolen, and our founder got together with some senators and whatever, and basically he understood from that meeting that nothing was going to happen from the top down. It just wasn't going to happen. So he realized that, in the same way that Soros and them targeted multiple counties in the multiple cities in the United States and used those to completely turn our country. I mean, it was like 6 that they targeted, and they flipped them, and look what's happened. So using that same strategy, it's got to be at the county. So the citizens of the county.
Now it's not just these big cities that, as you were saying, Soros has bought off like all these DAs, like Brian Middleton, in the Fort Bend, in one of the Fort Bend County towns, who Soros contributed like 190,000 to his campaign. But now it's spreading to the suburbs. Like Roanoke, Texas is not a big city; it's one of the suburbs. So I know it's tempting to think, oh, well, these big cities, like, I mean, they're just going to be like that. It's just going to stay there. No, I mean, they're trying to spread it throughout, the suburbs, and then the next step is going to be the rural towns.
Yep, they're coming for the rural towns. Yep. I just had someone message me yesterday that her daughter lives in Bernie, Texas. And her daughter's kids in elementary school are being taught pronouns. And her grandchild, this is her daughter's kids, and her grandson was supposed to we had to write an article, an essay, on coming out as a trans, like what that would be like. And the mother had filled out an opt-out letter and submitted it, and they're just not honoring it. So they're like, what do we do? So, I mean, we're having to fight stuff like that. And that's another thing about CCDF is we have national legal teams. So if there's a breach in freedom or liberty, and we approach the offender and they don't do anything about it, then we let the community know. And if that doesn't work, we go to national media, because we have a national media team, and we can be in front of 90 million homes in about a few days. And if that didn't work, our legal national team is prepared to sue all the way up to SCOTUS if we have to. So it's going to take stuff like that, organizations like that, and then just people like you and me and in our community. I have really learned that most people do not have an idea what's going on. You think there's more people now than there was, but people don't even know about the pornography in the schools. I talked to some people and I'm like, what? I mean, just the other day, and I'm thinking, how do y'all not know that?
I mean, more people are learning, like, as time goes by, but it's still like, a fairly small percentage, and it's not 100%, which is what it should be, that know about this.
Well, people are just living their life, trying to get by, and they got kid stuff and they got work, and it's, I get it. I used to be, I was always somewhat aware, but it wasn't until, I think right around the election time, it was a little bit before that, I started really kind of seeing what was going on. And So, I think some people just take longer than others, and then maybe there's some that will never figure it out. But I
We
think
I'm glad you brought up, the elections, because that was like the last item I wanted to cover, was just the Mike Lindell event that happened this past weekend out in Mesquite, Texas. And, yeah, I mean, they covered the election fraud, which, I mean, is not really a secret anymore and is not really
right.
new. But one of the things that he mentioned that is really underrated and we all need to never lose sight of was he was talking about the governor's primary race in Arizona, how they tried the deep state I'm talking about,
Yeah.
the election official machinery went overtime to try to deny Carrie Lake her victory, which is by leaps and bounds, and she won in a landslide. And Mike Lindell was making the point that the fact that like so many voters in mass came out to vote for Carrie Lake overwhelmed the fraud that they tried.
Yep.
And they're going to try election fraud every single election.
Yeah.
Now that they've tried it with the presidency, I mean, there's no going back from. They're going to try it every single time. And it's tempting for a lot of like good-hearted folks to think, well, I mean, they have the whole system is rigged. They have control of all the election systems. They're going to do the fraud anyway. So why should I take the time and vote? No, this is exactly why you need to get out and vote,
right,
mass and millions, because as it was shown in the governor's primary race in Arizona, that was enough to overcome the fraud. And if we sit back and do nothing and and just submit to the accurate belief that they're going to try the fraud, then yeah, that's how the fraud will be enabled. So we all need to go out and vote in mass and not give into this attitude that it's a lost battle anyway. It's not. It only is if we don't go out and vote in billions of numbers to overwhelm the fraud, as happened in the Arizona primary.
Well, and yes, you're absolutely right. And I would encourage people, if they can, to wait till game day to vote, because then they don't know how much they got to make up. You obviously vote when you can. If you can't, do it on the day of, but that just makes it harder. And then the other thing is, I mean, look at Virginia. I mean, it was the same thing there. If we hadn't had legal teams on the ground in Virginia ready to go, and we also had, this is another key thing, and what we're working on really hard, Kristen McCarty with her election integrity whole group. She's my election integrity leader for CCDF in Fort Bend County, but she's also she's also the Fort Bend GOP election integrity co-chair. So anyway, we have filled a whole list of judges now, whereas before they weren't all filled out. We have picked specific judges who are not. I mean, there were some judges on the list that have been judges for years who voted in the Democrat in the last election, but they were going in as Republican judges. You're supposed to have a Democrat and a Republican judge at each polling location.
Yeah, right.
I mean, and so we got that done, and they're not happy. Those Republicans here in Fort Bend County that got off the list, and Bobby Everly coming in, and I mean, he's doing a good job, and he's not going to play this game. And we're getting the people who are, the old guard way, who want to play the game. It's not going to happen anymore, and they're not happy. But you know what? Get over it. Go join the Democrat Party. I'm sure they'll take you. But we gotta get, people need to volunteer to be poll watchers. I mean, you can go for 5 hours and be done. I don't even know. Yeah. And you think it's no big deal. It's not hard. I did it. You just
I did too in the primary election. Yeah. I mean, mainly because my precinct or my county, like Montgomery County, like apparently didn't have like very many Republican judges, which is bizarre because Montgomery County is like a very hard Republican and red county.
Yeah.
But I mean, yeah, it's like, if your county or your precincts are lacking judges, especially, on the party that you like, don't complain that nobody else is doing it. You do it yourself. I mean, sure, you might have to burn a vacation day like I did, but what's, 1 day of vacation worth versus like, the integrity of your elections?
Exactly. I mean, I'm going to be a judge this time, and I said, put me where the most fraud is. Like, it's probably the ballot board or whatever. But and I have to take a little course. But at the end of the day, I mean, we need people in there. And when I was a poll watcher, one of the things we did at the particular location we were at in Sugar Land, everybody was wearing masks, and people were coming in and they weren't making them pull their masks down when they looked at the ID. And I said to the lady, I said, the judge, she was a nice judge. She was a Democrat, but she was nice. I don't feel like there was anything hinky going on there. However, they weren't pulling masks down. And I said, they need to take their mask off when you're looking at their ID.
Yeah, just like you had to do with the TSA.
Yeah. And she was like, oh, well, we don't like, some people get upset. I said, I'm sorry. I don't really care if they get upset. I mean, they're here to vote. Their vote needs to count. We need to make sure that somebody's not trying to take their vote. And I said they could just take it down and you look at it and then they can put it back on. And she was like, well, I need to call and ask about that. I'm like, okay, you call. So she did. And I went over there as a poll watcher. You can go stand right there and listen to their phone conversation. The only thing you can't do is talk to, the voters. And so I went over there and listened, and then she got off and she said, okay, you're right. So then after that, they pulled their masks down. And, nobody there to my knowledge, was trying to pretend to be somebody else. But there were some other things. Just being there and having a body there and eyes there makes a big difference. And then, being a judge and a clerk, you get paid. So at least you're, get compensated for your time. And it's just critical. It's participating in the government process. And like you said, even if it's just a little, even if it's just one day,
right?
Everybody does it. And I didn't know you're in Montgomery County, Krishna. Montgomery County has a CCDF, and I know the girl who's the director of it. Y'all ought to get in touch with each other.
Yeah, absolutely, for sure. Yeah, and it's called the CCDF, Rebecca.
Yeah, it's County Citizens Defending Freedom. Maybe we could talk about it on a show one time or something.
For sure, yeah. And God bless.
Jennifer Eckhart is the one who's she's the director for Montgomery County, and Cindy actually knows her. And
she's also up in Montgomery County.
Yeah, and she works with Jennifer a little. So,
great.
Yeah, we could have her. We could do like a CCDF thing on there or something.
Yeah, no, I think that would be great. And maybe next episode we can certainly try to do that, or like an upcoming in the near future. But God bless the CCDF, and certainly. Well, we definitely need to promote, pray for their efforts.
Yeah. I didn't mean to try to. I'm just bringing it up because it ties in with everything we're talking about.
That's good. Absolutely. Yeah. For sure. Yeah.
Anyway, well, I'm gonna have to bounce. It's been
fun. No worries. Yeah. I mean, I think that was a good episode, and this was a good episode. I mean, and covered all the topics, and thank you for coming and being on with me, and it was.
It's these videos are all very informative, and I think it's a good way for people to get little snippets of things they don't know. So it's great to work.
For sure, yeah. And folks, don't lose sight of the cultural decay, and do it as much as you can, and then some, to reverse it and make sure our culture does continue to promote righteous and wholesome and good values that enable our country to be one that defends liberty and rights at all costs, and provides all the opportunities that this country is still known for providing, better than any other in the world.
Absolutely.
In history.
And you know what? One is, I think it's great as a diverse country with people from various cultures and heritages, but to come together and celebrate where they come from, but celebrate it as Americans, and to keep.
America's got a culture too, and that needs to be, honored and respected and acknowledged just as much, if not more, considering this is the culture of the homeland. And I mean, clearly, if people are coming here, then that must mean that the culture is doing something right.
Right. But I just think it's great to have all the different cultures talk about, their heritages, but then also how they came here so that they could because when you come here, you don't have to lose your identity or your heritage.
Right.
But other countries, and they're like, no, you can't do that.
Like try promoting Japanese culture in Saudi Arabia.
Thank you.
You'd be like, it's probably easier to climb Mount Everest, and I'm not even joking about that.
Yeah, you're right. And there's too many countries that want to, that are truly bigoted and stuff like that. And so we just really need to highlight the fact that here in America, we celebrate, I hate to use the word diversity. They've kind of ruined it, but we celebrate our differences, but we do it as Americans. And
openness and open-mindedness and acknowledgement of different cultures, but, underpinning that with the truly unique and exceptional American culture of English law and liberty and the protection of rights at all costs. Exactly. And wholesome ethical and moral values.
Exactly. Well said.
Well, thank you, Rebecca, and thank you again for joining us. And I think we can wrap up this episode with that. And thank you for the audience for tuning in. We love you all. We love all the actions that you take and will continue to take after listening to this live stream. And yes, we'll see you all next Thursday at 7 p.m. Good night.
Bye. Good night.